Chen Xiang was worried that as Huang Jishan was correcting his cultivation it would result in his strength retrograding too much, and at that time it would do more harm than good. The madly laughing Huang Jishan suddenly turned serious, and said, "Now I'll teach you, once you enter the true martial realm, the method of cultivating your true qi and the method of others will be very different. The Tai Chi subduing dragon divine exercise covers everything, and after you train well, you can display punching techniques, kicking techniques, palm techniques, knife techniques, sword techniques and such various methods, and they can be hard or soft, cold or hot, quick or slow. Your external strength and internal strength, in the same way, can transform true qi into dragon force, and the power released will be same as what you've seen before. I first want to talk about the true martial realm, and the cultivation of the true martial realm. If you constantly absorb the world spirit qi, you will be able to refine it into true qi, then compress it inside the dantian. After the true qi is extruded, the quality of the true qi can improve, thereby the released power will be much greater. After achieving the late period of the true martial realm, the true form congealed out would be about the 9th of September 81, but as we cultivate 5 elements of true qi, so the congealed true qi forms are even 5 times more than the others. Chen Xiang also knew about this. After achieving the true martial realm, the cultivator has to congeal out 9 true qi forms in total, and afterwards the congealed 9 true qi forms would be fused into one form. After this, the fusion of the true qi forms would become the foundation of the other congealed out true qi forms. Then they would have to once again congeal out 8 more true forms of same quality, then those 9 true qi forms are once again fused. Every time the true qi forms were fused it was counted as one level. The true martial realm altogether had 9 levels, and the further level that was achieved, the harder it was to advance. Huang Jishan paused, then continued speaking, but our cultivation method is different. We, unlike the majority, do not have to compress the congealed out true qi forms, but we light each and every true element grain of those 5 true qi forms in our dantian. TLN. As was previously wrote by author, when true qi forms were congealed they were made up of countless rice-sized grains made of true qi. Those grains are here called true element grains Genuan Li. So to say, you currently should have 5 lifelike true qi forms in your dantian. If you correctly cultivate using the Tai Chi subduing dragon divine exercise, then when you achieve the true martial realm, you'll be able to clearly see the inside of those 5 true qi forms. Their insides are composed of countless true element grains, and a true element grain is equal to 1 true qi form. At that time you just have to constantly absorb true qi to light up those dim true element grains, and if a true element grain lit up once, then it is equivalent to 1 true form being congealed. Chen Xiang nodded his head and said, as long as 9 of the true element grains inside those 5 true qi forms are lit, it can be counted as breaking away from the true martial realm. Chen Xiang of course was fearless regarding hardships, and the so-called cultivating method of Huang Jishan's also made Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu moved. This method avoided the tedious process of fusion. Later, horrible screams of a human were always being transmitted one after the other from below the sinkhole, and these screams lasted a whole year. Chen Xiang totally had not expected the so-called process would turn out to be Huang Jishan pouring his supreme master's power into his dantian, and casually fiddle around in his dantian, casually attempting and finally seeking the so-called method. Before Chen Xiang saw his own cheap teacher confidently and calmly speak of correcting him, so he thought he had a very good method, but who knew he would actually be tricked. It was actually by various attempts and slow exploration that it would then be successful. This 1 year for Chen Xiang was the same as hell. Along with one maniacal laughter being transmitted, Chen Xiang finally let loose a deep breath, because his insane teacher's attempt was finally successful on him, which was not nullifying his cultivation, but correcting his way of cultivating. Teacher, how can you be so rash and attempt it on me? If 1 in a million chance you failed, Chen Xiang said with a bitter smile. This year, he was like a mold of clay, and he allowed this crazy old man to knead him as he wished. Huang Jishan laughed, how can I fail? Was it not successful? Chen Xiang clenched his teeth and scolded, if 1 in a million chance you failed, is it that you have not at all thought what would happen to me if you had failed? Chen Xiang imagined the case, and in his heart he had a lingering fear because if he failed, then maybe he would be crippled. Bullshit, I cannot fail so why should I think? Huang Jishan reproached him, which made Chen Xiang stamp in rage. He decided in the future he would not mingle with this crazy old man again. This Huang Jishan used power that transcended the mortal world, and Chen Xiang could not afford to play with him. Chen Xiang, while looking at the 5 gloomy divine beasts forms in his dantian, in his heart he was very shocked. In all of these 5 gloomy divine beast forms, there was very small lit true element grain. This was made by compression of his 10th level mortal martial realm's true qi, and if he wanted to completely light up the 5 divine beast forms, then he needed to congeal and light up countless true element grains. Thinking about this point, in his heart he was very shocked. Teacher, you have completely lit all the true qi forms, no? Chen Xiang asked. If I had completely lit them all up, I would not be staying here. I've only lit a paw of my 5 beast forms, Huang Jishan replied. A paw, that needed tens of thousands of true element grains. How did he congeal that many true element grains? Chen Xiang had cultivated for so long, and was only able to congeal out 5 grains. Okay, now that your cultivation method is corrected, in the future you just have to follow the Tai Chi subduing dragon divine exercise for your cultivation and you can cohesion out the dragon force, but still you should not use it. Generally you should use those inferior Qi aura stuff, Huang Jishan strongly urged. The cultivation method of the Tai Chi subduing dragon divine exercise and the Tai Chi divine exercise was just about the same, but in the Tai Chi subduing dragon divine exercise, there were many external skills, and some of these moves were very profound, but if used they were very formidable. Of course, it would not have any effect on his previous, divine exercise of 4 symbols, besides, this time his true Qi was also much more vigorous. 1 year, and this father is already 18-year-old, although only a year, but I feel like I've lived more than 100 years. Chen Xiang muttered, and in this 1 year he had suffered terribly. After you leave, besides my 3 apprentice grandsons you absolutely cannot tell other people that you're my apprentice, said Huang Jishan while his old face was gloomy. Old man, you don't need to worry, I'll definitely remember, said Chen Xiang while curling his lips. Besides, can I still leave now? I still do not know how long the dean went into closed-door training for. By the way, teacher, what background does that elder Dan have in the end? No name, I do not know how she looks, but her alchemy is very formidable, Chen Xiang asked, and in this 1 year he asked this every time, but Huang Jishan said that he would tell him after he was successful. She is from the Purple Moon world. She has the Purple Moon fire spirit, and she is an alchemy genius. She might have been hunted down by someone or something in the Purple Moon world, and as she was not able to go on so she came here to escape, and does not want to expose herself, but now she is your martial nephew, Huang Jishan seriously said, and although he was usually maniac, but regarding some things he was extremely cautious. Chen Xiang secretly smiled, the extreme martial sect's 3 tycoons were his martial nephews. How cool was this? And while he was getting self-satisfied, Huang Jishan fiercely knocked on his head, making him loudly yell. Seize this time to cultivate. You have to make all those 5 true element grains in the 5 divine beasts forms to become brighter. Once you have lit them to the extreme you would have entered the true martial realm, Huang Jishan scolded. Chen Xiang looked at the 5 beasts forms in his dantian, and found that those 5 true element grains aura was indeed somewhat weak. He could see that he was still a step away from the true martial realm. Below here, Chen Xiang did not had any thoughts regarding alchemy, and fortunately the spirit chi here was very rich. Apart from exercising, he had nothing else to do, and not to mention his insane teacher was staring at him all day. Once he showed any laziness he would be hit. Once again a year passed, and Chen Xiang finally completely lit the Azure Dragon and Vermilion Bird true forms true element grain, already lighting them up to the extreme. So he began to cultivate the White Tiger form. Just then he heard a sound resounding in his ear. Chen Xiang, you can come up, however, you must find a way to come up on your own, for this forbidden land restriction has already been lifted. This voice belonged to Wu Keiming. After entering this sinkhole in the forbidden land, anyone wanting to fly up would be deprived of their strength. This was true even for Huang Jishan, and now, the large formation inside the forbidden land was being controlled by the dean, and Chen Xiang could fly up since his restrictions have been removed. Upon finding out that he could leave, Chen Xiang was very happy in his heart. He did not want to spend his whole life in this dark place. Teacher, Before Chen Xiang could even finish his sentence, he felt some pain in his ass as his body flew up. He found out to his surprise that he was kicked up in the air by Huang Jishan. Chen Xiang had already given a lot of thought to what he was going to say upon parting. There were going to be some comforting and touching words, but now, he no longer planned to do so because being kicked up by his own teacher made him angry. With that, Chen Xiang flew out from the sinkhole at an extremely quick speed before falling on the ground. When he came down, he was kicked, and now when it was time to leave, he was kicked once again, which left him somewhat dumbfounded. Chen Xiang saw an old bald man with white beard and a happy smile coming towards him. Wu Keiming said, "Great, I did not expect that you will be able to come out." Wu Keiming was followed by a handsome young man who had an extraordinary bearing. This young man was dressed in a grey robe and had a small and enthusiastic smile hanging on his face. His face gave a vicissitudes and majestic aura which did not match his appearance. Chen Xiang could see with one glance that this must be the incumbent dean of extreme martial sect, Jiyu Dongchen. Hey, not going to salute the dean?" Wu Keiming laughed and said. Chen Xiang had not thought that the dean would actually have an appearance of a young and handsome man. He suddenly felt that among the extreme martial sect's top 10 handsome men, the dean would be placed first. Chen Xiang looked all around, stood up and sorted out some dust on his body, and faintly smiled. "Guess who I saw down below?" Still with the guessing, of course, it should be that insane old man. you can actually laugh now. Did he not torture you? Ji Dongchen brow slightly wrinkled, because Chen Xiang did not even greet him, and from his posture, he could tell that Chen Xiang didn't had any intention to salute. Chen Xiang said with a smug smile on his face, that insane old man took me as his apprentice, according to seniority, shouldn't you be the one saluting me and calling me martial uncle? Wu Keiming and Ji Dongchen could not help but become shocked, yet they were still somewhat doubtful. Just as Ji Dongchen was about to speak, Chen Xiang pulled out the master and apprentice contract. You see, I'm not lying to you, Chen Xiang said while grinning. On the other hand, Wu Keiming and Ji Dongchen cursed constantly in their hearts after seeing the contract. If not for them being adamant about maintaining their image, then Chen Xiang would have definitely heard many rich curse words. Rest assured, in the circumstances that we are in the presence of outsiders, I will call you dean and elder respectively, but in private you still have to call me martial uncle. Chen Xiang loudly laughed. His laughter was very much like Huang Jishan's insane laughter. This made Wu Keiming and Ji Dongchen could not wait to slap him to death, though in their hearts they cursed Chen Xiang and Huang Jishan, but both at the same time were also similarly surprised. They both knew how hard the Huang Jishan's requirements were for receiving a new apprentice was. Besides, his only disciple was too great. At a very young age he had ascended to the heaven realm and had superb strength which even surpassed his teacher. In the Chenwu mainland, he was a legend. Of course, as they are Huang Jishan's grand disciples and knew Huang Jishan's matter, their heart were secretly palpitating. They imagined that Chen Xiang had also obtained Huang Jishan's supreme divine exercise. Unfortunately they were unable to cultivate using that divine exercise, otherwise they would have already learned it. TLN. Apprentice grandson changed to grand disciples. Whether it was Huang Jishan or their teacher, all of them were very excellent and Ji Dongchen and Wu Keiming very much respected these two elders. But now, they had to call a brat less than 20-year-old, martial uncle. It was extremely difficult for them to open their mouths and call him, martial uncle. Of course, they still had to acknowledge Chen Xiang's seniority. Chen Xiang with hands behind his back, posed like an elder, as he looked at Ji Dongchen and Wu Keiming. If anyone else had done so, they would have already turned into a puff of smoke. If you do not acknowledge me, forget it. Even if I meet great senior brother in the future, I absolutely would not mention it to him. Even if I accidentally mention it, I'll also make sure that he does not blame you. Chen Xiang shook his head and sighed, said with a strong sense of righteousness. This made Ji Dongchen and Wu Keiming desire to pummel Chen Xiang even greater. Wu Keiming was the first to admit defeat. Perhaps in the future he would also be able to go to the heaven realm. If at that time Chen Xiang informed it to their teacher, then he would definitely suffer a lot of hardship, because their teacher was very strict with them. Young martial uncle, are you happy now? Elder Wu said and then with a bitter smile looked at Ji Dongchen. If we had known this earlier, then we definitely would not have released you, and would have left you to stay with that insane old man down below for countless years. Ji Dongchen coldly snorted. Young martial uncle, now that are you pleased? Wait for Elder Dan to come out. Let's see how she deals with you. Chen Xiang had a mischievous smile hanging on his face, although they had called him young martial uncle, but this had completely satisfied his sense of superiority. He could make extreme martial sex dean call him so. This made him feel cool and earth-shaking. That is a matter of future, rest assured, no matter what, whether she acknowledges me or not, but in the end you are all my martial nephews. Chen Xiang loudly laughed and said, ha ha ha, little bald, little featherhead. Wu Keiming grimaced in anger, only his teacher and that insane old man dared to call him with such a nickname. Ji Dongchen also remained silent. A not even 20 years old little rascal actually dared to clamor in front of them. They couldn't wait to stick their foot on his ass and make Chen Xiang fall into the sinkhole once again, allowing him to continue to accept the torture dished out by Huang Jishan. In order to not to call Chen Xiang martial uncle, Wu Keiming and Ji Dongchen both walked very quickly, in a second disappearing from the mysterious realm. While Chen Xiang on the other hand left the mysterious realm leisurely, and then returned to that 500th martial courtyard. After seeing the sunlight, it made him feel as if he was reborn once again. His mood became happy, and after he was tortured in that hellish forbidden land, his strength had also substantially elevated. Martial Courtyard was just as deserted as it was 2 years ago, not one silhouette was visible. While waiting for Yuan Xiaodao and Zhu Rong, he could only lie down on the bench within an arbor and bask in the sun. After coming back, Chen Xiang only knew Wu Keiming was responsible for the inner courtyard's second assessment of the disciples, so there are a lot more disciples entering the inner sect. But disciples entering 500th Martial Courtyard are still few, because those who came all had more options to choose as compared with previous 329 Courtyard. Is anyone here? Quickly come out. One very arrogant sound came, but it was that of a girl's. Chen Xiang obviously heard it, but he chose to ignore it. He pretended to be asleep lying on the arbor's bench. He wanted to look what this woman was going to do. He soon discovered it was not just one girl, but a large group of girls. All of them looked very pretty, but Chen Xiang still did not move. Humph, 3 wastrel occupying such a big place, it is simply a waste. Today we're here to seize this courtyard, letting our junior sisters and brothers to settle here. One of the leading girls said, her tone was brimming with pride, as if she was the boss of this group. Big sister, there is someone here, one female pointed at Chen Xiang's location. TLN. Da Jia too, the female is calling here as her gang leader, not elder sister. After discovering Chen Xiang, everyone went to Chen Xiang with a torrential imposing manner. It looked as if they will surround Chen Xiang and ruthlessly beat him up. If it was someone else who had been surrounded by 100 people, he would ha already wet his pants, but Chen Xiang still pretended to sleep with a rhythmic snoring. Hey, get up! Do you know who came? Said one girl while putting up a high and mighty act. Chen Xiang didn't know, but previously he caught sight of their very beautiful leader in yellow robe, who was much more beautiful compared with the other girls on her side, but in his opinion, she was still a bit lacking compared with Shui Shenqian, Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu. Chen Xiang continued to pretend to be asleep, looking such appearance of his, she could not help but angrily said, no wonder they stayed in this martial courtyard for so long, they only know how to sleep. Finished speaking, she slapped on Chen Xiang's chest, her momentum was actually not small, but after she smacked down, she only felt a strong attraction sucking her palm, making her palm closely pressed on the right side of Chen Xiang's chest. At this time, Chen Xiang opened his eyes and screamed, You actually dare to molest a man in broad daylight, where did this bad girl come from? In the next moment the girl was shocked, she didn't even know what had happened. The moment she wanted to quickly move her hand away from Chen Xiang's chest, she found to her surprise that she was barely able to somewhat move her fingers. Her palm had been closely sucked in, which gave of the impression that she was kneading Chen Xiang's chest. Still not taking your hand back, how long do you want to touch me? Are you trying to figure out whether or not mine are bigger than yours? Chen Xiang said while pretending to be shy. This made that girl's pretty face suddenly turn very red, as if it was a monkey's ass. The surrounding girls were also rather surprised, as they hadn't expected that this girl would actually act so boldly. She had, in front of so many people, grabbed this handsome man's chest. Not only that, she had been lovingly kneading it. Chen Xiang, seeing that it was the right time, retracted his power, allowing the girl's beautiful hand to leave his chest. When the girl looked around and saw the expression in the eyes of the girls around her, she was at a complete loss. She couldn't even explain what had just happened, which left her rather anxious to cry. She immediately held onto the beautiful yellow-robed girl beside her and cried loudly. What methods did you use in the end, to tease Shouty to such an extent? That yellow-robed girl coldly asked, as her face was brimming with anger. She could instantly tell that Chen Xiang had intentionally done something. In these 2 years, Chen Xiang's name had long been forgotten. If his name wasn't mentioned, then no one would think of him. Haha, I wouldn't dare, however, whenever I sleep, I would cast this strange martial skill to protect myself. If she hadn't acted with such a heavy hand, it would also not have been sucked so tightly. Chen Xiang laughed. Humph, originally it was you. The arrogant girl called Shouty suddenly angrily shouted. But when she caught sight of Chen Xiang, who was closely inspecting her expression, she didn't dare to say another word. She was also an inner courtyard disciple, so she was well aware that anyone who had such means, their strength was absolutely not bad. Chen Xiang sighed and said, how is it possible that in these 2 years inner courtyard disciples have become so bad? Do you know who she is? She is Wu Qianchen, the strongest among the top 10 beauties, and even the inner courtyard #1 disciple Mo Yuan is respectful towards her. Yet you dare to be so presumptuous? Shouty tenderly shouted. Her face had a very proud look, as if she herself was the so-called most beautiful girl in the extreme martial sect. Chen Xiang laughed and said, on what grounds should I be respectful to her? I'm not that oily head powdered face little bitch Mo Yuan, I'm me. This yellow-robed beauty actually turned out to be the most beautiful woman among the top 10 beauties. She was still the same as 2 years ago. At that time Chen Xiang also had a faint impression of her, and seeing her today, he was definitely far from disappointed, as she was indeed very beautiful. What? You actually dare to say such things about young Master Mo? You're looking for a fight? One girl, as if she was stabbed, sharply shouted, and at the same time also blasted a fist. Unexpectedly, a vigorous water attribute true chi was gathered around her fist. Chen Xiang didn't dodge, instead he allowed her to strike him first. However, when the girl's fist struck Chen Xiang's body, she felt as if her power was like a heavy stone sinking in the sea, as it disappeared without a trace. This was the effect of the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. It allowed true chi to softly float on the body's surface the moment that it was activated, which would dissolve the harsh and fierce power of the true chi. With this effect, one would use softness to overcome hardness. I don't wish to fight, woman, but if you squabble again while I'm sleeping, then I'll throw all of you out. One by one. Chen Xiang's smile disappeared, as his voice suddenly turned devoid of emotions. Wu Qianchen's eyebrows were slightly knit. Her strength was also rather impressive, and from a single glance, she could see that Chen Xiang's true qi was quite terrifying. "What is your name?" Wu Qianqin coldly asked. "Chen Xiang." As these two words entered her ears, Wu Qianqin was overtaken by surprise and even retreated several steps, as her complexion became serious and had a look of alertness. The others acted likewise, as they too quickly retreated, as if Chen Xiang was some kind of plague. "You're out," Wu Qianqin, while clenching her teeth, said. She had previously heard about Chen Xiang, but she had never actually met him. "I've only just gotten out, but why did you come to this courtyard? If you don't wish to explain, then get the hell out of here." "Hush, I'm going to sleep," Chen Xiang unenthusiastically said. "We wish to use this martial courtyard to train our people," Wu Qianqin said, as her beautiful face was already devoid of any pride. Not only had he once killed a true martial realm martial artist, he had also taken a true martial realm alchemist as his apprentice. In front of him, she had nothing to be proud about. "Sorry, this martial courtyard is barely enough for me and my fellow disciples to use, please leave," Chen Xiang said, as he shook his head. They would usually practice their martial arts in this courtyard, and if it became crowded with people here, then it would obviously be rather inconvenient. These boys and girls couldn't help but be momentarily surprised. Chen Xiang had actually refused the most beautiful girl, Wu Qianqin. Not only that, but when Chen Xiang looked at Wu Qianqin, his expression was as if he was observing a normal person, as not even the slightest change could be found in his expression. Chen Xiang's actions left a seed of hatred in Wu Qianqin's heart. His actions had really shocked her, and she even began to suspect that Chen Xiang was perhaps only interested in other men. "Let's use the most common way to solve anything in the extreme martial sect. Let's compete in martial arts. If I win, you have to agree and let my people live here," Wu Qianqin stubbornly said. Despite the rumors stating that Chen Xiang is very strong, however, she believed that she had a chance, as she was also an 18th martial courtyard disciple. "What's in it for me? If you don't offer up anything for me, then I quit," Chen Xiang said. He had stayed so long in that hellish place, that beside getting battered and abused he hadn't done anything. Now that he was facing someone who was of similar strength, he was somewhat tempted to have a little brawl. "A true elemental Dan," Wu Qianqin said, as she nibbled her lips. "Good." Chen Xiang immediately complied. In Wu Qianqin's eyes a true elemental Dan is rather precious, however, to Chen Xiang it's nothing more than a jelly bean. Everyone circled around the middle of the square, while Chen Xiang said, "We attack until the other party admits defeat. No weapons are allowed. If you do take your weapon out, then you've already lost." Wu Qianqin understood why he had said this. According to the rumors, when Chen Xiang had killed that true martial realm martial artist, he had obtained a weapon from the heavenly dragon treasure. It was estimated that this weapon was comparable to a level 9 spirit weapon. If weapons were used in this fight, then she would definitely lose. "Start," a girl on the edge of the square yelled. All of them absolutely admired and worshipped Wu Qianqin, and they firmly believed that their big sister would definitely win. An ideal was rosy, but reality was cruel. In her first attack, Wu Qianqin used a rather good martial skill that was powered by her fire true qi. Chen Xiang guessed that this martial skill was around the earth level. It was a set of gorgeous palm techniques. When her palm moved it was similar to an elegant dance, as fire was dancing around her whole body. Scorching hot flames continually gushed out from both of her palms, which caused the onlookers on the edge to loudly cheer. Chen Xiang held both his hands behind his back, as he solemnly stood there. He had to admit that while Wu Qianqin's palm technique was indeed very beautiful, enchanting and moving, but while competing, only strength reigned supreme. It didn't matter whether your moves looked good or bad, all that mattered was how cruel it was. Only this determined how easy it was to kill your opponent. Wu Qianqin was similar to a dexterous swallow, as she was continuously smacking both her palms, which were metamorphosed into limitless delicate fire palms, towards Chen Xiang. In the blink of an eye, one after another scorching qi waves spread in all directions and completely covered Chen Xiang. Everyone thought that Chen Xiang would be badly scarred, or even worse. However, after the fire palms struck on Chen Xiang's body, everyone felt like they were dreaming. These fire palms indeed struck on Chen Xiang's body, but Chen Xiang remained standing stoically. It looked as if these fire palms were destroying a steady giant mountain. However, when the fire palms finally disappeared, everyone was able to see that the fire palms hadn't even been able to do so much as scratch the steady giant mountain's clothes. Wu Qianqin was also momentarily surprised, but she quickly recomposed herself and once again initiated an onslaught. Punches and kicks were moving together, as each and every technique of her was using a vigorous qi aura. The spectators took a step back, as they were all profusely sweating due to the intense heat of Wu Qianqin's attacks. But just like her previous attack, it didn't even faze Chen Xiang in the slightest. Chen Xiang had cultivated his body to first level of immortal and devil body. Anyone among the same level, if their strength was not too strong, just by relying on his body he could basically compete with them. At this time, Chen Xiang's skin and bones were like copper and iron. No matter how Wu Qianqin attacked him, it hadn't even done anything to him. Wu Qianqin's fragrant perspiration was already dripping. She had an anxious look as she had already used hundreds of techniques, and each and every technique of her had a very strong qi aura, but still it hadn't fazed Chen Xiang. At this time, Wu Qianqin was panting. She had consumed a lot of her true qi, so she gave up and retreated a few steps. While panting she asked, "Are you in true martial realm?" Chen Xiang slightly smiled and said, "No, but I cultivate in a special way. I only used my true qi to protect my clothes from burning, and used my body to resist your attacks." Physical strength. Wu Qianqin was completely shocked, and her charming body, after realizing, was slightly trembling. Her heart at this time was completely devoid of any arrogance. Chen Xiang had not even used any attack, and she had already admitted defeat. In her opinion, even inner sect's #1 person didn't have this kind of strength. Body cultivation, that was but too difficult. Wu Qianqin clearly knew, for Chen Xiang to reach this step he must have suffered a lot. When she looked at Chen Xiang, her eyes were full of reverence. Respect the strong, this was the norm of the world where only strength was respected. "I lost." Wu Qianqin bowed her head and softly said. She did not dare to look at Chen Xiang. She now knew why from the beginning Chen Xiang had a plain look in his eyes when he looked at her, because no matter how pretty she looked, with her strength in the eyes of Chen Xiang she was just an ant. "You can keep the true elemental Dan for yourself. I'm going to be long-winded for this. In your eyes I'm very strong, right? But those above true martial realm are even more stronger. In Chenwu mainland a majority of people are as such, although we have entered the inner courtyard, but in those people's eyes we are still the same as ants. I once was struck by a palm of a true martial realm martial artist, and just with that I had directly lost the battle. If I hadn't escaped fast, I would have already been dead." Chen Xiang clenched his fist, and said with a lot of anger. Wu Qianqin's charming body once again trembled. She had guessed correctly that the true martial realm martial artist, who injured Chen Xiang, was in turn killed by him. Inner courtyard's disciples were indeed nothing in face of that, and then simply had no qualms to be proud of that qualification. They were simply not a match. "Thank you for your advice." Wu Qianqin nibbled her lips and whispered, then took her leave. Chen Xiang mischievously laughed and continued to lie down, waiting for Zhu Rong and Yan Xiaodao to come back. Once they were back, they were going to fight the first inner courtyard and win it. Not too long after, Chen Xiang saw a fat boy and a teen walking in. They were Yan Xiaodao and Zhu Rong. 2 years had passed, and they had grown up a lot. Zhu Rong became a lot more fatter, and had become big fatty from little fatty. The childishness on Yan Xiaodao's face had faded a lot. He looked a lot more mature now. Chen Xiang himself had turned 19 this year. That kind of immature and innocent aura of his had entirely faded, and now he looked more mature and stable, like a person with a rich experience. Chen Xiang suddenly frowned, because Yan Xiaodao's and Zhu Rong's complexion was not very good, although they had a smile hanging on their face, but they had a complex expression in their eyes. There was anger, helplessness, regret. "Elder brother Chen, congratulations in getting out from jail. Let's go to the old place to have a drink." Yan Xiaodao giggled and said. "Also it is little rascal Yan's treat, I'm not a child," Zhu Rong smilingly said. If it had been before, Chen Xiang would not have hesitated and happily went for a drink, but he could see both his friends were hiding something from him. Chen Xiang fiercely extended both his hand, grabbing Yan Xiaodao's and Zhu Rong's wrists. As he poured his divine sense into their body, and simultaneously probed the situation of their dantian in their body. Chen Xiang's complexion suddenly became gloomy, because he found out that Zhu Rong and Yan Xiaodao were both injured, moreover very seriously injured at that. However, they had now stabilized and were slowly recovering. "More than 50% of your principal meridians are broken, all of your bones are cracked. Fortunately your dantian is not seriously injured. Otherwise you would have lost all your cultivation and would have become crippled." Chen Xiang released them, and seriously said. "Is it because of me you were made like this?" Chen Xiang's voice became very calm, but while speaking a murderous and furious aura surged out from his body. Yan Xiaodao and Zhu Rong both could clearly see the slaughter qi. Chen Xiang was very furious. Yan Xiaodao and Zhu Rong remained silent. They were wondering whether or not they should tell Chen Xiang how all this happened. "Yan Xiaodao and Zhu Rong, I knew we're not like this." Chen Xiang's brow twitched. His voice became immensely cold. What made them shudder was the fact that this whole martial courtyard was actually slightly shaking. Yan Xiaodao and Zhu Rong could not help but get shocked. They were wondering whether Chen Xiang had entered the true martial realm or not. Chen Xiang was actually so formidable. While he was calm, but he still could release such horrifying pressure, which even made them feel very uncomfortable. "I'm not going to ask again. If you do not speak, I'll definitely beat the hell out of you till you open your mouth." Chen Xiang rubbed his fist. On his face flashed a glimpse of ruthlessness. Zhu Rong jumped out of fear. Zhu Rong wiped the sweat from his face, laughingly said, "We will speak and that's the end, since you're so formidable, we are also fearless that you'll go and seek death." Yan Xiaodao's complexion became serious, said, "It was the first inner courtyard's disciples, they wounded us. While I and Lao Zhu were returning from our mission, we encountered them on the road. I only spoke a few sentences to them and they besieged us." Yan Xiaodao's face was brimming with anger. Those 5 people were well prepared, intentionally angered little rascal Yun, making us and them have a conflict. The martial courtyard calmed down, but it was still enveloped in a kind of slaughter chi which could make people shudder. Chen Xiang with a deadpan look asked, "Was Mo Yuan also there helping those people?" "That little bitch was leading them, but at that time Squinted Snake saved us. Although that guy is annoying, but at the most crucial moment he came forward, warning Mo Yuan and his group, otherwise we would have been crippled." Yan Xiaodao while grinding his teeth said. "The people who sieged us were very strong, besides Mo Yuan, there were Chang Xingyi, Yin Lin, Lei Kai and Lu Yongming. Mo Yuan and Lei Kai are the children of the 4 major families of extreme martial province, precisely Mo family and Lei family, that's why they dare to act against us, and Yin Lin and Lu Yongming are also children from some great families," Zhu Rong said. Chen Xiang took a long deep breath, retracted his slaughter chi, and once again asked, "When did this happen?" "A year ago. Later we didn't go and look for them, our teacher made us stop right there, both our family regarded it as a minor matter, besides in between 4 families relationship of benefits exists. If these relations were broken once, the 4 family would lose a lot of profit," Zhu Rong said with a cold snort. "Didn't Elder Wu do anything?" Chen Xiang secretly despised patriarchs of their families. If it was the Chen family, then no matter how beneficial it was, as long as the family children were being bullied, we must make them pay tenfold. "We told him, but he told us to wait for you to come out, and let you resolve this instead of us. He said you will certainly manage it well." Yan Xiaodao helplessly smiled. On Chen Xiang's face appeared a sliver of smile, "That being the case, I'll help you resolve this hatred. Let's go and have a drink." Yan Xiaodao and Zhu Rong brought Chen Xiang along to their usual hotel. As they arrived at the 3rd floor of that hotel, they even saw Squinted Snake, Xie Yan Shui, Xu Weilong. Though his appearance was insufferably arrogant, Yan Xiaodao and Zhu Rong were very grateful to him. "Squinted Snake, come drink with us," Yan Xiaodao shouted. "Little rascal, I remember telling not to call me like that. Is it that you don't have long-term memory? You deserve to get a beating." Xu Weilong gave them a side glance with one eye, then continued speaking, "Why should I, can't you come here?" Zhu Rong laughed and said, "If we come to you, then you have to pay, if you come with us, then, no matter how much you eat and drink, little rascal Yun is going to pay." Xu Weilong faintly smiled, "Making this little rascal pay so easily, it's not a bad idea." While speaking, he walked to the table of Chen Xiang's group, before instantly ordering many expensive food and wine. "Squinted Snake, thanks a lot for last time," Yan Xiaodao laughed. "Humph, if you do not call me that again, then that can be considered as gratitude to me," Xu Weilong coldly spoke. Chen Xiang laughed and said, "Anyway, your family is really useless, and your status in your family is really ordinary. You were beaten, yet your family did not even dare to fart. If it was my family, hee hee. If they did not give us a proper explanation, then we would give them a proper payback." Xu Weilong, after seeing Chen Xiang, was also surprised. He had not expected Chen Xiang to come out so soon, and as long as one was from the extreme martial sect, all of them knew about the Forbidden Land. That was a very frightening place, and even if one had to spend only 2 years there, people would still find it difficult to endure. As long as one is not a true martial disciple, their position will be the same in all families. If you have very high talent, then you'll receive more resources compared to others. However, your family, just for you, absolutely can't cause significant damage to their benefits. Xu Weilong sneered and said. Zhu Rong and Yan Xiaodao could not help but let out a deep sigh, as both of them fully understood. Zhu Rong said, "Brother Xu, you also can be considered not bad. If you can just change your attitude towards others, that would definitely be very good." Yan Xiaodao also nodded his head, and said, "Yes, why is that every time you look at others your eyes are squinting? It makes others very unhappy." "Humph, is that what you think of me? I was born with this." Xu Weilong words made Chen Xiang's group stunned. Just like Chen Xiang and Zhu Rong, Yan Xiaodao was thinking of laughing, but didn't dare to. This made Xu Weilong coldly snort once again. "Humph, Chen Xiang, do you intend to win against the first-ranked inner courtyard? To tell you the truth, the first-ranked inner courtyard's benefits are very generous, and to keep their own position, they're definitely going to use whatever means possible. Besides, they're relying on the first-ranked inner courtyard name to draw in a lot of people. They deeply care about this, because as their force grows, so would their importance within their respective families. Until eventually, they'll receive a piece of land in the family. The major families of the extreme martial province were very huge, and only if one was very strong, were they capable of occupying a piece of land. Are you afraid? Chen Xiang asked. Fearless. After all, I'm not in the first-ranked inner courtyard. The last time I stopped them they expelled me. Xu Weilong fiercely drank his glass, while there was a trace of anger in his voice. This Xu Weilong was indeed good, but he himself was somewhat arrogant. With his congenital face defect, he would usually give off the impression that he was always arrogant towards any and everyone, as if he was peerless in this world. Come to the 500th martial courtyard. Because of these two guys you had to leave the first-ranked inner courtyard, I'll now let you go back. Chen Xiang lifted his wine glass towards him, as he spoke these words. Yun Xiaodao and Zhu Rong also lifted their respective wine glasses, welcoming him. I can come, but later this little rascal isn't allowed to call me that again. Xu Weilong smiled, but his smile was very weird. The four of them made a toast and emptied their glasses. Now, Chen Xiang's group's martial courtyard now had 4 people. Squinted Dragon, where did the 1000 true Qi Dans come from last time? That is not a small number. Yun Xiaodao laughed and asked. TLN. Xu Weilong, long means dragon. Humph, all day long you have been giving other people nicknames. If you keep on going like this, compared with me you'll be beaten even more. Xu Weilong said with a low snort, which could not help but make Zhu Rong and Chen Xiang laugh. That is what I casually picked up. Now I still have more than 1,000. Xu Weilong words made Zhu Rong's eyes pop out. Where did you pick it up from? How many? Zhu Rong quickly asked. I found 3,000 of them below the Camel Peak outside the city. Xu Weilong words had only just finished, when Zhu Rong already stood up. Looking at his appearance, he was going to rush over there and have a look himself. Don't go, that place has already been turned over and over again, and all of it has been dug out. All that remains is a lake. Xu Weilong said. Zhu Rong sat back down and let out a sigh. How come I've not encountered such a good thing? Tomorrow morning I'm going to fight the first-ranked inner courtyard. Chen Xiang said. Need my help? Xu Weilong asked. No, I'll go alone. Chen Xiang faintly smiled. This smile of his emitted a lot of confidence, which made Yun Xiaodao and others secretly shocked. Xu Weilong sighed and said, You've got to be careful, all 5 of those guys are equal in strength. Mo Yuan had also occupied the top position in the top 10 most handsome list, as well as the top 10 inner martial list. The inner martial list was the strength ranking of the inner courtyard's martial artists. In other words, Mo Yuan was the strongest in the inner courtyards. Chen Xiang looked out of the window and said, The sky is still dark, let's go now to the first-ranked inner courtyard and pick that 16th nameplate and hang it on our martial courtyard entrance. Chen Xiang believed Zhu Rong and Yun Xiaodao were beaten just because he challenged the first-ranked inner courtyard 2 years ago, and Mo Yuan feared that in the future he would be defeated by Chen Xiang, so he had only wounded Yun Xiaodao. Moreover, they'd also calculated that the extreme martial sect and their families would both not pursue this matter. Of course, they had originally planned to injure Yun Xiaodao and Zhu Rong, but who knew that Xu Weilong would come in the middle and with a few powerful words, make them give up. Chen Xiang said to go and he went ahead. He had completely finished the wine in his wine glass. Afterwards Zhu Rong, Yun Xiaodao quickly ate their dishes. Humph, the food and wine I ordered still have not come. Xu Weilong complained. Meanwhile Yun Xiaodao had already called someone to check out. Squinted Dragon, wait for elder brother Chen to win against the first-ranked inner courtyard, then we will eat a big meal again, that won't be too late. Yun Xiaodao laughed. About Chen Xiang, he was very confident, and Zhu Rong was also the same, because Chen Xiang always did something beyond what they expected. Dusk, the setting sun dyed half of the sky bright red. However, the whole extreme martial sect was in chaos, because Chen Xiang, who had 2 years ago been imprisoned in the Forbidden Land, had come out. To make matters worse, the moment he got out, he went to settle the regret he had from 2 years ago, as he challenged the first-ranked inner courtyard. Yet what was even more shocking to them, was the fact that the ante he took out this time was even bigger. It turned out to be a palm length of hell spirit grass. No matter where, hell spirit grass was very rare, even in the Qingwu 9 provinces. Hell spirit grass was also very expensive, and so rare that it could not be sought, but could only be discovered by luck. Such a huge temptation made it very difficult for the first-ranked inner courtyard Mo Yuan to resist. Besides, he also found out that Chen Xiang had come alone to fight. Such a case, if he did not accept the challenge for the first-ranked inner courtyard battle, then people would think that he had stage fright, which would be a very shameful matter. Big sister, that guy called Chen Xiang is going to challenge young Master Mo, are you not going to watch? It's today, and the location is the first-ranked inner courtyard. Wu Xiaodi walked in a room full of elegance, as she spoke towards a yellow-robed girl. Wu Qianqin was slightly surprised, as she knew that Chen Xiang was definitely going to challenge the first-ranked inner courtyard, but she hadn't expected for it to be so soon. Xiaodi, let's go, I definitely have to take a look at how formidable this Chen Xiang is. Wu Xiaodi softly snorted. Humph, that annoying guy is definitely going to be beaten black and blue by young Master Mo. Today, I'll be able to get back at him and escape from my embarrassment. Wu Qianqun chuckled and said, you little girl can get all the benefits you wish for from other people. Alright, let's go. Wu Xiaodi wrinkled her nose, stamped her foot and softly snorted. When she thought of how she'd grabbed Chen Xiang's chest, her pretty face couldn't help but turn red. At the elder courtyard inside the mysterious realm, Wu Kaming smiled and said, Dean, you decide whether or not we'll go and join in on the fun. Let's finally take a look at the young martial uncle and see how he'll win. He actually challenged the entire first-ranked inner courtyard alone. Ji Yu Dongchen mischievously smiled, and said, of course we'll go and I really hope that he'll lose. At that time we can make some fun at his expense, and we'll see then if he can still be so arrogant in front of us. Ji Yu Dongchen and Wu Kaming left the mysterious realm, before arriving on top of a 50-floor high tower, looking far away at that huge area of the first-ranked inner courtyard. After having disappeared for 2 years, Chen Xiang had finally resurfaced and immediately made such an earth-shattering event occur. Everyone could instantly recall his name and he soon regained some of his fame inside the extreme martial sect. Chen Xiang was not only a celebrity in the extreme martial sect. He also had a small reputation in the extreme martial province, because he had killed a beast martial sect true disciple. Afterwards, the beast martial sect had put a bounty of 100,000 crystal stones on his head, which was a rather large sum of money for most martial artists. In order to obtain this reward, many of them had investigated Chen Xiang's origin. Mo Yuan, with the other 9 first-ranked inner courtyard's members, stood in the middle of the huge square of the first-ranked inner courtyard with Chen Xiang. Thousands of inner and outer sect disciples were standing behind Mo Yuan and the other 9. These thousands of people had all been drawn in by the influence of the 10 people in front of them. On the other side, behind Chen Xiang were only 3 people, Yun Xiaodao, Zhu Rong and Xu Weilong. Mo Yuan still looked decent, as he slightly smiled and said, I didn't expect you, Xu Weilong, to actually mix in with them. But the bigger surprise today, is that you came here to fight all of us. Alone. You also didn't expect for there to be so many people. Chen Xiang also slightly smiled, as he replied. The square was surrounded by a lot of lively people who came here to watch. Even some celebrities were within this crowd, such as the top 10 beauties, the top 10 most handsome males and even some true martial realm martial artists. At this time, Zhu Rong patted Chen Xiang's shoulder, leaned next to his ear and said, young brother Chen, you see that lovely little girl over there? She is my younger sister, Zhu Ruro. Chen Xiang took a side glance, and saw a girl wearing a light pink skirt standing among a group of girls. Although the girls beside her were not ugly, but the girl in the light pink skirt was particularly conspicuous, as she was very beautiful. She had a light smile on her cute and pretty face and her whole body was exuding an elegant temperament, which was very striking. Not bad, but I'm not interested. Chen Xiang whispered. At this time Yun Xiaodao pulled Chen Xiang's sleeves, pointed to a girl wearing a white skirt far away, and whispered, she is my elder sister, and she is ranked second among the top 10 beauties, Yun Suyi. Chen Xiang once again looked, this time toward Yun Xiaodao's elder sister. This girl was tall, had a mature charm, looked beautiful and elegant, and was completely different from Zhu Rong's younger sister. Zhu Rong's little sister was delicate and petite, pretty and cute, while Yun Xiaodao's sister was a thoroughly matured girl, with quite a bit of height. Xu Weilong cursed, you came here to look at girls or to fight? If you're not fighting then I'll leave. Mo Yuan and his group were once again trying to maintain their composure, but at this time they were at the end of their rope. They hadn't expected for Chen Xiang, Zhu Rong and these bastards to actually have discussion about girls at this time. They were not at all serious, and it made them feel like they were being underestimated. They didn't know that Yun Xiaodao and Zhu Rong were trying to introduce their respective elder and younger sister to Chen Xiang. Very beautiful, they're indeed worthy of being on that list. You can go and tell them, that if they don't mind me having 3 wives and 4 concubines, then they're welcome to come tonight. This father is still a virgin after all. Chen Xiang said with a sinister smile. Mo Yuan couldn't tolerate it anymore and coldly said, are you going to fight or not? Of course I'm going to fight, but you should tell me the rules first. Chen Xiang dry coughed twice, while Zhu Rong and Yun Xiaodao, with a look of contempt, looked at Chen Xiang. Mo Yuan said, just a moment ago you said you're going to fight, but on our side there are many capable martial artists and all of them can be counted as members of the first-ranked inner courtyard. Yun Xiaodao was suddenly furious after hearing these words, count my ass, among these people, a lot of them don't even have the qualifications to enter the inner courtyard. Obviously Mo Yuan had some concerns regarding them being defeated by Chen Xiang. So just to be sure, he could only say something like this. Exactly, if they are the first-ranked inner courtyard's members, then the benefits the extreme martial sect would have to pay them alone is enough to choke. Don't play us for fools. Zhu Rong coldly replied. I'm the first-ranked inner courtyard's chief. If I say they're then they are. Although they don't receive the first-ranked inner courtyard's disciples' benefits, they do often reside inside the first-ranked inner courtyard. Moreover, they also took part in the extreme martial sex-assigned missions, and all of them have completed at least a part of it. Mo Yuan said. Chen Xiang laughed and said, in other words, after they complete the task, all the rewards they obtained were received by you. Hee, no wonder you recruited so many people. Mo Yuan complexion changed. If you disagree, then please leave. If Chen Xiang agreed, then he would have to fight 10,000 people. Could a single man do such a thing? Everyone around them also felt that it was somewhat excessive, and if they were in his place, all of them would have disagreed. Just as they thought they weren't going to see the fight happen, they heard Chen Xiang words, I'll fight as I meant before, but the premise is that after these 9 are defeated, only then can all of them join the fight. Yes, but their strength is very poor, so all of them will work together and learn from you. Mo Yuan replied. Now Chen Xiang clearly saw through Mo Yuan's hypocritical face, which looked as polite as a pie, but whose heart was full of dirty tricks. To everyone's surprise, Chen Xiang actually agreed. Even if he could win against the 9 members of the first-ranked inner courtyard, those thousands of disciples were also marvelous, and all of their strength was above the 9th level of the mortal martial realm. Even if Chen Xiang was an elephant, and was sieged by so many ants, they still wouldn't be able to predict his chance of victory. Idiot, what will you do if you lose? That is a hell spirit grass. Zhu Rong cursed. Yun Xiaodao viciously looked at the 5 people who besieged him, grinding his teeth and said, Elder brother Chen, I believe that you'll definitely make them pay for what they did. Wait for the day when I have the strength, at that time I'll kill all of them. Yun Xiaodao spoke these ruthless words, before he walked towards his elder sister, Yun Suyi's location. Zhu Rong also had a look of helplessness, as he also went to his younger sister. You really don't need any help? Shu Weilong asked, as he was still standing behind Chen Xiang. No, you should also move back and watch. At the same time you should try to stay away from this first-ranked inner courtyard. In fact, it would be better if you didn't stay inside the first-ranked inner courtyard at all. Chen Xiang whispered, while a ruthless smile flashed across his face. Deep inside his heart, Shu Weilong was secretly shocked by this smile. This chapter is sponsored by Saskia Paul de, an anonym. Chen Xiang was imprisoned for 2 years in the Forbidden Land, which meant that he had also lost 2 years' worth of benefits. That was why he not only wanted to make the first inner courtyard lose, but he also wanted to make the extreme martial sect lose a little bit. While he was coming, Chen Xiang had learned from Shu Weilong that among the first inner courtyard's 9 members only 5 had actually fathomless strength, while the other 4 could be ignored. These 4 intentionally defected to Mo Yuan's group, and Mo Yuan wanted to increase his sphere of influence, so he had allowed them to join in. Chen Xiang could clearly identify with a single glance who these 4 individuals were. He only had to compare the imposing manners of the members of Mo Yuan's group. After all, they were in the hands of their boss, so when he stood in front of them they would obviously restrain themselves. One-on-one, whoever loses cannot fight again. Mo Yuan said. Can I first fight those 4 alone? Chen Xiang directly pointed to the 4 men who hadn't yet spoken a single word, as all 4 of them were very respectful towards the others within Mo Yuan's group. As you wish. Mo Yuan immediately said, you 4, go. Be careful. Chen Xiang was willingly going to fight 4 at the same time, and this made everyone surprised. Here, everyone were martial artists, and now they could watch a high-level inner courtyard battle, and this made all of them very excited. The contest had started. Each of the 4 had their body vigorously shake, as they pushed their powerful true qi. At the same time, the true qi of the 4 of them exploded, as qi waves rushed away in all directions, setting off one fierce wind after the other. The onlookers could clearly see that the true qi was very pure, as well as very dense. Indeed worthy of the first inner courtyard. Wu Qianqin's pretty eyes glittered, as she enviously stared at those standing in the field. These first inner courtyard members were the disciples with an immeasurable future. After all, as long as one was strong, they would be worshipped by everyone. Each and every one of these 4 men are stronger than Big Sister. That guy called Chen Xiang is definitely going to lose. Wu Xiaodi clenched her jade-white teeth, as she gloatingly said. Suddenly, those 4 men disappeared from their place. This speed caused tens of thousands of disciples around them to exclaim, one after the other, as each and every one of them yearned for this kind of speed. Chen Xiang's eyes rotated, attentively listening to the faint sound, while at the same time he spread out his divine sense, catching the true qi fluctuations in the air around him. The speed of these 4 men were indeed very fast, as they ran back and forth in the square, and their silhouettes were almost invisible. 2 behind me, 1 in front of me, and 1 in the air directly above me. Chen Xiang had been continually aware of their movements, and when they attacked him, he had immediately determined the direction of their attacks. Chen Xiang faintly smiled, the true qi within his body operated as he wished. This was the Tai Chi subduing dragon divine exercise, making true Chi surge above his skin, achieving a kind of dispelling fearsome power effect. At the same time, also generating something akin to a vortex's suction force, sucking in anyone close to it. Everyone in the square was holding their breath, as they were waiting for the moment when the four men would reappear and attack Chen Xiang. Luckily, they didn't have to wait for long, as an exciting scene appeared in front of them. Because the four people attacked Chen Xiang respectively from the front, back and above. From the front, a hand like a spear tip jabbed right in the middle of Chen Xiang's chest. The two behind each punched with their fists, which were wrapped in vigorous true Chi and struck towards Chen Xiang's back. Meanwhile, a leg of the man in the upper air was falling down, similar to a long spear falling on Chen Xiang's head. These kinds of sudden and extremely powerful attacks. Everyone that was watching this fight in the field was confident that if they were to defend against these moves, they would find it absolutely impossible to do so. Chen Xiang, however, didn't dodge and instead stood fixed there. Then, a strange scene appeared, as the four people attacked simultaneously, as fast as lightning and as fierce as thunderbolts. But after they struck Chen Xiang's body, they all froze in their spots. It looked as if they were under some kind of demonic spell, as the four of them were unable to move. Anyone under the true martial realm would find it impossible to fully defend against these attacks and survive. However, Chen Xiang didn't seem to be fazed by the attacks that had hit his body. Even though everyone could clearly see that his chest had been stabbed by a cone-like palm, while another person was standing on top of his head and two fists were closely sticking to his back. Indeed, Chen Xiang was hit, but it didn't do anything to him. Everyone originally had thought that Chen Xiang, even if he had not become meat paste, he would at least vomit a few mouthfuls of blood. But currently, he didn't even have a wrinkle on his brow. The four men who had attacked Chen Xiang were also very much stunned. Because after they had used their powerful Chi aura to attack, it had felt as if a sword vigorously entered into the water, without generating the smallest of waves. However, what made them even more shocked was that their hands and legs had been plastered to Chen Xiang's body, and that they couldn't even mobilize the true Chi within their body. While everyone was shocked and uncertain, Chen Xiang moved. He fiercely blasted his fist forward, hitting the person in front of him. This fist looked like an ordinary fist, however, the moment it hit the person in front of him, he flew 100 or so jong away. Not only that, but when he was flying away, he was also spurting blood, until he finally crashed into the tiled floor. Just so, Chen Xiang sneered, while he let out a shout, only to see his robe suddenly turn into powder, revealing perfectly curved and robust muscles. At the same time, a fiery red mist surged out from within his skin, while at the same time a kind of scorching hot invisible Chi surged out in all directions, giving everyone a hard time trying to endure it. At this time, the one who stepped on his head and the two behind him issued blood-curdling screams, as blood gushed out from all three of their mouths, while their faces were twisted due to pain and fear, making them look extremely ferocious. Humph! With a cold snort, a Chi wave bursted out from his body. This burst of Chi waves gave a big shock to those three men, as they once again spewed a mouthful of blood as they flew away. Chen Xiang had not taken them seriously, as he was just letting them suffer a little bit, so that they wouldn't be able to continue to fight. You five either throw in the towel, or fight me. During the battle, I absolutely won't be lenient, I don't care how noble you are. Chen Xiang said with a deadpan expression. These angry words shook everyone present. Chen Xiang, at this time, was very serious and was also the most terrifying. In the blink of an eye he had defeated 4 first inner courtyard members. This was indeed the kind of power that could make people terror-stricken. Far away Wu Kaming was somewhat concerned and said, Dean, should we not stop this brat? I fear that he'll continue to ruthlessly act, as he'll probably even start killing the opposite party. No need, every move of this brat is very calculated, at most he would cripple those guys. You also informed me before what those guys have done, which they must bear their own punishment for. Ji Yu Dongchen said, as he held both his hands behind his back. He had a somewhat solemn look on his face as he looked at Chen Xiang. This brat, just a moment ago, used the Tai Chi subduing dragon divine exercise. Teacher had once told me about this move. Only if the gap between the user of this skill and their opponent's true Chi is truly large, will the dispelling effect of this exercise be effective. It seems that he did indeed obtain the inheritance of that insane old man. Does this mean that he has the yin and yang? Wu Kaming spoke up to this point, as his eyes were wide open and his whole face had a horrified appearance. Ji Yu Dongchen nodded his head. It should be. I hear he can use a variety of attributed true Chi. Flame was gushing forth out of Chen Xiang's whole body. These flames were as if they were the anger within his heart, raging and burning, giving off the appearance of an angry fire god. Who is going to come? One-on-one. Chen Xiang's eyes were slightly narrowed, glancing at the 5 handsome men. All of them were children of famous families in the extreme martial province. A somewhat chubby yet handsome man came forward. Although they'd seen and gotten an idea of Chen Xiang's strength, they were still devoid of any fear. The man who'd come forward also gave off a very calm appearance, and wore a white luxurious dress. This man was called Chen Xiang. He was one of the many children from the chief of the extreme martial province's trade union, and came from a very wealthy family, which was also friendly with many other families. His family had dealings with many small and medium-sized sects. Chen Xiang took out a sword that was engraved with azure spirit veins. Despite the spirit veins being small in size, when he poured true qi into them, the spirit veins glittered with a beautiful light, giving off the same impression as that of lightning and wind. This was at least a level 4 spirit weapon. A wind and lightning sword. That's a top-grade sword even amongst level 4 spirit weapons. Wu Qianqun said with surprise and a look of envy. Any girl would love to have this kind of beautiful spirit weapon. Beside her, Wu Xiaotis pouted and muttered, "Our great beauty, Wu Qianqun, fancies that nasty Chen Xiang. How is that annoying guy so formidable? How was he able to casually deal with those 4 first inner courtyard guys by himself?" Wu Qianqun's pretty face turned rosy, as she angrily said, "Little girls don't speak nonsense, Chen Xiang's character is also pretty good. Before, we could only blame ourselves for being too proud and arrogant. We didn't know how to respect others, we didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Fighting with him woke up my ignorant self, besides, he won against me, but still didn't take my true elemental Dan." Wu Xiaoti stuck her tongue out, and no longer spoke. She just kept looking at the beautiful spirit weapon that was in Chen Xiang's hand. Chen Xiang knew that this kind of top-grade spirit weapon was worth a lot. Even if, by itself, it didn't have a large value, if it was taken to be auctioned, it could sell for millions of crystal stones. Chen Xiang saw everyone surrounding them looking at the spirit weapon with envious gazes, and in his heart he was extremely proud. Towards Chen Xiang, he sneered, and said, when the rules were mentioned, it wasn't mentioned that the use of a spirit weapon was a foul. I heard in the Heaven Dragon treasure house that you got a good spirit weapon. Chen Xiang interrupted him and said, rest assured, I won't use it to deal it with you. You're not worthy of it. Of course, if you dare to have a life and death fight with me, then I'll use your blood as an offering for the blade. Rampant brat, today, I'll teach you a good lesson. While Chen Xiang was speaking, that wind and lightning sword stabbed towards him. It gave off the impression of the wind's elegant and soft spirit, however it also carried the power and momentum of lightning. Chen Xiang had a wood attribute, and was capable of using both the wind and the lightning attribute, that was the hard and soft power. If both were combined together, it'd be even more powerful, and having wood element true qi among the 5 elements, Chen Xiang was clearly aware of this. The beautiful wind and lightning sword stabbed like lightning towards the left side of Chen Xiang's chest, but, strangely, Chen Xiang mysteriously extended 2 of his fingers, and closely gripped the sword tip. This light clamp made everyone unable to help but be surprised for a moment. That sword stab, although it had looked elegant and striking, its power was also obvious, but Chen Xiang had so leisurely clamped onto it. Everyone only saw that Chen Xiang had a light smile hanging on his face, before all of a sudden a light red mist overflowed from his 2 fingers, and his fingertips, like scissors, cut off the sword tip. This scene made everyone feel as if a knife had been twisted in their hearts, and also gave them a huge shock. That was a level 4 spirit weapon, but it was cut as if it was paper. Chen Xiang had easily pinched it off, and that expensive wind and lightning sword had been destroyed, making people feel very regretful. Yes, profound aura finger. I hadn't expected that he'd actually learn this kind of terrifying low-grade earth-level martial skill. An old man shouted with surprise, which very soon spread. Not a single person had expected that Chen Xiang would actually learn this kind of formidable, as well as difficult to learn, martial skill. Chen Xiang was, just a moment ago, immensely proud because of his own wind and lightning sword, but now his complexion had turned extremely ugly, and his eyes were twitching as he gazed at the slowly dimming spirit vein inscribed on the sword blade. The spirit weapon had only been damaged a little bit, yet it was still equivalent to being destroyed completely. Of course, spirit weapons were all very sturdy. Unless they encountered an even better spirit weapon, they were very difficult to damage. Even he hadn't expected that Chen Xiang had actually practiced the profound aura finger, which could possibly be called a divine martial skill, of martial skills, and had broken his precious wind and lightning sword with just a clipping gesture. At this time, Chen Xiang wasn't even capable of spewing blood. He let out a furious roar, and rushed toward Chen Xiang. Both of his fists surged with endless azure true qi, lightning flashing above them, while at the same time, 2 lifelike azure snake heads appeared on top of his fists, and Chen Xiang struck those hissing snake towards Chen Xiang. When those fists were just 3 feet away from Chen Xiang slammed a palm towards Chen Xiang, while at the same time azure wind and lightning qi aura gushed above his palm. His palm was very quick, came very suddenly, but after he smacked the air, that palm of his exuded an invisible pressure, and soon formed one invisible giant palm, that covered Chen Xiang and was moving towards him. A fierce trembling suddenly emerged inside the entirety of the first inner courtyard, only for people to see that the place where Chen Xiang stood was as if waves were cresting upon it. Sturdy bricks transformed into pieces as that sudden fierce and earth-shaking power poured into his body. In the blink of an eye, the true chi gathered in his body had been entirely scattered from the shock, and at the same time the bones in his entire body had been cracked, and most of his meridians were also broken into pieces. Yes, the shocking heaven palm. Yun Xiaodao exclaimed. He'd read this martial skill too, but it was too difficult to learn, so he'd given up immediately. Now that he'd seen how powerful this skill was, he couldn't help but secretly suck in a deep breath. The profound aura finger and shocking heaven palm that Chen Xiang had cast were both very hard to learn martial skills, moreover, the requirements for one's body were also very high. But Chen Xiang could now easily cast them. It could only be explained by the facts that he'd completely grasped these two powerful martial skill, and that his body was also very strong. Chen Xiang was lying on the ground, struggling, and constantly vomiting blood. Just a moment ago, when the terrifying power had hit his body, it had made him feel the same as if his body was collapsing in that moment, and when he saw Chen Xiang walking towards him, he couldn't help but look frightened. What was Chen Xiang going to do? Everyone soon got the answer, when they saw Chen Xiang howling, as numerous fist shadow flashed, one after another filled with dense and powerful chi that struck towards Chen Xiang. Those pair of fists shone with golden light, and a kind of merciless and intense slaughter chi followed along with each fist strike as they spread out. It was very nauseating to watch. In the blink of an eye, Chen Xiang had blasted hundreds of fists towards Chen Xiang. He'd used metal white tiger true chi, which gave off a murderous and violent chi aura. Each and every fist of his landed on Chen Xiang's body, who was still on the ground, causing Chen Xiang to suddenly burst out, one after another, with heartbreaking, blood-curdling screams. Chen Xiang's fists were very quick. He didn't give others the time to stop him. By the time everyone had regained their spirit, Chen Xiang had already been hammered by Chen Xiang's strikes into the broken floor. His badly mutilated body was already mixed in with the broken stone, but he wasn't dead. This bloody, brutal, frightening, and strong attack made fear seep into the hearts of most of the onlookers, while at the same time, Chen Xiang, in their eyes, had become the same as a brutal slaughtering god. Chen Xiang, Mo Yuan, while looking at Chen Xiang who was mixed in with the broken stone on the ground, couldn't help but swallow his saliva. Just like the others, it had also made him feel deep fear. Next, Chen Xiang coldly said, and everyone that heard his voice couldn't help but shudder. Wouldn't the next person also be the same as Chen Xiang, beaten until he could no longer be recognized? Slaughtering heart. Not only did this allow Chen Xiang to release a kind of psychic pressure that was capable of captivating other people's mind, at the same time it could also allow him to turn into a cold-blooded and resolute killer. It allowed him to fight with no worries, enabling him to completely showcase his full strength. There were many people who during battles, because they had too many worries and idle thoughts, were unable to use their entire strength, but Chen Xiang did not have this limitation. I did not break any rules. If you possess the ability to do so, come and cripple me. Chen Xiang's eyes were full of killing intent, glaring at Mo Yuan and the other four. Chen Xiang had already been dug out. His body had been mashed into the ground. Soil and stone were mixed in together. It looked very nauseating. A lot of people were already retching. Previously he had displayed the appearance of an imposing powerful expert, but in just a short period of time he became like this. Chen Xiang's brutal display of force made people deeply fear him. Who's next? I will never show any mercy. I will not let them have the opportunity to throw in the towel. You will be turned into a pile of crushed flesh. Chen Xiang's ice-cold voice spread throughout the first inner courtyard and was akin to a devil from hell, making people extremely scared. Previously, Mo Yuan and those other four had truly not placed Chen Xiang in their sights, but now they, themselves, did not dare go up and fight. They were clearly aware of their own strength. They knew that their own strength could not be much better than Chen Xiang's. Whoever went up and faced Chen Xiang would most likely face the same fate as that of Chen Xiang. Mo Yuan carefully thought about it before his eyes suddenly lit up, saying, I give up. Mo Yuan actually chose to throw in the towel, causing Chen Xiang to be slightly surprised. Other people were also shocked in a similar fashion. Many of the girls had a look of disappointment in their eyes after hearing Mo Yuan surrender. In their eyes, he was invincible. Although they were deeply shocked by Chen Xiang's strength, they still believed Mo Yuan would definitely be able to cleanly beat Chen Xiang. At this time, Yin Lin, Lei Kai and Lu Gongming had all admitted defeat. If they fought independently, they would only end up being destroyed. Although they were very concerned about the first inner courtyard, they were even more worried about their own future. If they were crippled, they would be unable to stand and rise up for a very long time, perhaps indefinitely. Previously you said that if we lost, then the people behind me will be allowed to fight, right? Mo Yuan coldly smiled, as he lifted one of his hands, made a gesture, and suddenly more than 10,000 disciples behind him simultaneously let out a thunderous roar, filling the entire extreme martial sect. Zhu Rong clenched his fists. This guy looks as polite as pie, but is actually so despicable. Yun Xiaodao had already arrived beside Zhu Rong, prepared to participate in the battle. First Inner Courtyard's disciples, today we will work together and defeat the person in front of us. Mo Yuan loudly shouted, boosting their morale. This attitude of his caused everyone to secretly curse his shamelessness. Mo Yuan and the remaining four were all secretly proud, because in their opinion it would be impossible for Chen Xiang to defeat all these more than 10,000 people. But what made everyone a bit surprised was that, Chen Xiang just calmly said, Mo Yuan, you didn't fight with me before, do you not regret it? I'll allow you to fight together with them, all of you can come together. Is Chen Xiang crazy? This was what everyone's first thought was, and to their surprise he allowed Mo Yuan and those four to come together with those 10,000 disciples. Wasn't he clearly asking for torture? Ha ha, since you are so kind, I'm not going to refuse you good intentions. Mo Yuan laughed, everybody let's go. Just as the word, go, fell, Chen Xiang's body, like an arrow shot from an bow, flew out and appeared in front of Mo Yuan. Mo Yuan was shocked, but quickly mobilized all of his true qi, majority of which was used to create a qi shield for defense. At the same time he poured some of it in his arm, transforming it into overflowing qi aura. Just as Mo Yuan was thinking of striking out with his fist, Chen Xiang quickly opened his mouth, spewing a powerful and violet azure qi aura, transforming in a giant azure column, which not only ruthlessly attacked Mo Yuan, but also struck a group of people coming from behind him, leaving a deep scar on the ground. When that azure qi aura beam landed on that group of people, one by one they let out blood-curdling screams filled with pain. White Tiger Divine Fist go die. At the same time slaughter qi rose from Chen Xiang, and both of his fists transformed into two huge tiger heads. Like a stampeding storm, each and every one of his fist strikes produced a powerful windstorm, blowing everyone surrounding him away. White Tiger Divine Fist strikes landed on Mo Yuan's body like raindrops. Each and every one of his fists extinguished Mo Yuan's life force. Chen Xiang had only punched few dozen fists, which landed on the qi shield covering Mo Yuan's body, and all of his defense crumbled. Mo Yuan emitted a series of horrible shrieks. Chen Xiang's fists were very fast, and in the blink of an eye he threw out hundreds of fists, each fist carrying a very violent power. Dragon Aura Fist. Chen Xiang's fist suddenly became like gold, surging with very frightening qi aura. This punch is for Zhu Rong. Chen Xiang's fist landed on Mo Yuan's cheek, and bursted out with a thunderous explosion, only to see Mo Yuan's bloody teeth fly out. One side of his face had completely sunken in. This is for Xiaodao. Despite that Mo Yuan had already passed out, Chen Xiang once again punched out. All Mo Yuan's 7 apertures bleeding and his whole body was covered in blood. As I said before, I'll not show any mercy. Chen Xiang gathered dragon aura on his leg, and kicked Mo Yuan's abdomen, who flew away, hitting the wall of the martial courtyard. Yin Lin, Lu Yongming, Lei Kai having seen Chen Xiang's cruel side, didn't dare come out and fight for Chief Mo Yuan's sake. On the contrary they retreated, taking refuge within the crowd. Although Mo Yuan was defeated, behind him were 10,000 disciples like a tide surging towards Chen Xiang, and these people were even holding sharp weapons in their hands. You are compelling me to use ruthlessness to finish the job. From Chen Xiang's back a red light surged out, and a pair of huge fire wings appeared behind his back. He jumped into the air, and as he beat those vermilion bird fire wing, he was suspended in the air, where everyone could see his whole body exude an azure, mixed with red aura. Fearsome scorching heat as well as a terrifying qi aura burst out from his body. Shocking heaven palm. Chen Xiang roared, and slapped a palm towards the ground from the air. An invisible qi aura violently surged out from his palm, transforming into a terrifying pressure which in turn enveloped everyone. Chen Xiang completely released his own azure dragon and vermilion bird true qi, and used it to form an imprint of shocking heaven palm. At that moment, all of the huge first inner courtyard violently trembled. Fissures appeared on the square one after another and all of the buildings collapsed. On that huge flat square, in the blink of an eye, like tsunami waves going up and down, those disciples standing on the ground also became overwhelmed from the powerful qi aura and vomited blood one after another. Shocking heaven palm. Chen Xiang's eyes had turned blood red, blue veins popped out on his forehead, and he channeled all of his anger while furiously roaring once again. Those who were watching the fight had already climbed over the rubble, and with shock and fear ran far away from those fissures. When they heard Chen Xiang was once again about to release that frightening, shocking heaven palm, in their heart they could not help but lament. This time Chen Xiang completely released the divine elephant earth true qi and the white tiger metal true qi. These two frightening and vigorous true qi fused together, and landed on that first inner courtyard. Boom, 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 boom. The shocking heaven palm imprint Chen Xiang had created next, once again made the ground of the first inner courtyard tremble fiercely. Those 10,000 disciples on the ground had already collapsed, many of them covered by the overturned soil. The entire first inner courtyard had already turned into ruins, and those people were all giving off miserable screams one after another. Chen Xiang had almost exhausted his vermilion bird true qi. His vermilion bird fire wing could not last for long, so he swooped down from the sky and landed at the entrance, dug the soil around it and found the 16th number plate, looked at the messy ruins in the rear, coldly snorted, and sped away. Many of them shouted, "Impossible!" In their hearts, in their opinion, only a true martial realm martial artist would be capable of such deeds, but Chen Xiang was not in the true martial realm. The huge first inner courtyard had been reduced to ruins in a short span of time, while those 10,000 or so disciples who'd originally had aggressive and imposing manners, were now crying one by one. They were immersed in bottomless fear. Just a moment ago, Chen Xiang had completely released all of his vigorous true qi to send out a shocking heaven palm strike. Its strength was already extremely terrifying, and in addition to that strike, he released another strike just after it. Any one of the extreme martial sect's younger disciples would have a hard time just resisting the level of frightening qi aura that was produced. Is this something that a human can do? An inner sect disciple rubbed his eyes after they'd witnessed the entire event. Everyone felt a lingering fear that, if they continued to stay here, they too would soon be affected. Ruro, this brat is formidable. Zhu Rong patted the lovely girl's head and said with a proud smile. Very formidable. His strength is close to the true martial realm. Zhu Ruro looked at Chen Xiang's vanishing back using her pair of clean eyes. Slightly smiling, she said, "Brother, you've made a terrific friend." Of course. Then, elder brother is leaving. Zhu Rong very happily ran towards Chen Xiang. Yun Xiaodao tugged his sister's, Yun Suyi's, clothes. "Elder sister, although he's much younger than you, elder brother Chen wouldn't mind it. If I have the chance, I'll arrange a meeting between you and him." The mature and charming Yun Suyi was still immersed in shock due to those two waves of violent tremors. She sucked in small mouthful of cold air and said, "Forget it, such a person is too frightening. He and I wouldn't be a match." Yun Xiaodao pursed his lips, before running towards Chen Xiang. By now, Xu Weilong had already been deeply impressed by Chen Xiang's strength, but Xu Weilong too had also not shown any weaknesses. Chen Xiang saw Xu Weilong dragging an unconscious Yin Lin and Lei Kai along as he arrived beside Chen Xiang. "These two guys wanted to escape, but I stopped them, and dealt with them, before I tossed them aside like two sacks of feed." "Haha, well done." Chen Xiang laughed. At this moment he clearly looked tired, and one could see that his consumption of true qi had been quite substantial. After Yun Xiaodao kicked Yin Lin and Lei Kai once, he laughed, and said, "Come on, let's go and have a drink." Although Chen Xiang was very tired, after a few true qi dans, he was able to restore a lot of his energy, and he left together with Yun Xiaodao and the rest. "Dean, now you see." Wu Kaming had a bitter smile on his face. "What has this brat done? He's actually been so rampant, and has destroyed the entire first inner courtyard. If we want to reconstruct it, it'd require a ton of crystal stones. In addition to this, he also injured so many disciples." Ji Yu Dongchen also smiled bitterly, and said, "I originally wanted to take a look and see how this brat would be defeated, but I never thought that his strength would be far higher than what we'd assumed. As for the reparations, make these disciples pay for it, after all, their families are filthy rich. If it wasn't for Chen Xiang, their young martial uncle, they wouldn't have even bothered to watch this sort of fight." Although in the eyes of many disciples, this battle had been extremely shocking, in the eyes of true martial realm martial artists, it had just been a piece of cake. This was also the reason why battles between those in the true martial realm weren't often seen. If true marital realm martial artists wanted to compete, they would generally go deep into the mountains to fight. Otherwise, the aftershocks from their battle would spread to too many people. Chen Xiang, along with Yun Xiaodao and the others, got drunk. When they finally came back, it was already very late into the night. After returning to the deserted extreme Dan King courtyard, Chen Xiang took a short break, before he took out a single azure profound fruit. This was a rare herb amongst the materials required for the building foundation Dan. It was very difficult to grow, and it could only be conceived from a few ancient trees. Is it truly impossible for one to grow azure profound fruits? Chen Xiang suddenly had an idea. To be precise, he was planning to use this azure profound fruit to grow a tree. Some spirit herbs require a particular environment to grow in. Take the hell spirit grass for example, it only appears in places that have a very dense death qi. This azure profound fruit is also conceived from ancient trees, but they don't require a specific environment because all their elements, after passing through the ancient trees, are transformed into a peculiar type of spirit qi. Su Meiyao said to him. Chen Xiang wanted to become a grandmaster alchemist, but the first requirement was for him to have a large number of spirit herbs. Although he resided in the extreme Dan King courtyard, he was unable to obtain a lot of a spirit herbs for alchemy, and could only rely on himself to get them. As his strength improved, he'd need to elevate his alchemy skills as well. This was because, in the future, he'd have to heavily rely on dans. If he could refine more rare dans, he could use them to draw in strong individuals, and have them do many tasks for him. Chen Xiang had occasionally conceived some dragon saliva, and had stored it over these past few years. As his strength had elevated, his capacity to accelerate the maturing process of the dragon saliva had also sped up. He had already collected 5 bottles of dragon saliva, and intended to use all of them to culture the azure profound fruit in order to grow it into a tree. After resting for a whole night, Chen Xiang was full of energy, and had returned to his pinnacle state. He left the extreme Dan King courtyard, and arrived at the new first inner courtyard. This martial courtyard was originally the 500th martial courtyard, but now, at the entrance, there was a number plate hanging on it that said, 16th. Zhu Rong had come early in the morning, after waiting for the others, then quickly left together with them to get their sex benefits. The 16th inner courtyard had very generous benefits. 5 true elemental dans per year, 100 true chi dans every month, along with 10,000 crystal stones of course. They all knew that their missions would be difficult, but they had this freak Chen Xiang, so all of them weren't worried even a little bit. Since the very moment that they'd received the benefits, the smile that hung on the fat face of Zhu Rong hadn't disappeared. He seemed extremely happy, because from now on, he'd receive 100 true chi dans every month. Xu Weilong and Yun Xiaodao were both very kind. As they knew it was all because of Chen Xiang, each of them gave 2 true elemental dan to Chen Xiang. However, Zhu Rong only gave him 1. Younger brother Chen, you truly are a god of wealth. I wish more and more that you could become my brother-in-law. Haha, maybe one day I'll be able to live inside a house of crystal stones. Zhu Rong was grinning from ear to ear. If you have any missions then, younger brother Chen, you alone can go. It shouldn't be a problem for you. Dead fatty, the fat on your body is only increasing, not decreasing. Looking at your lazy self, I fear that the day you encounter danger, your fat body will drag you down. Yun Xiaodao hummed. Zhu Rong's complexion was as if he didn't even care. He smiled and said, little rascal Yun, there's no useless flesh on my body. It's already saved me several times. If I gather true chi in my fat, when people hit me, I simply don't feel any pain. Elder brother Chen, bash 2 fists into him, and then have a look at what happens. Yun Xiaodao said with a smirk. Zhu Rong quickly dodged and said, freeze. Chen Xiang isn't included. Chen Xiang laughed and said, you 2 guys are truly, ah yes, what did your younger and elder sister say? Are they willing to serve me together? Forget it, when my younger sister learned that you already had a fiancé, she decisively rejected. Zhu Rong sighed. Regarding this point, he was also very conflicted in his heart. Although he knew it was normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines, when it came to his own younger sister, he disagreed. My elder sister thinks you're too young for her, and says you're a monster. I'm pretty sure she isn't joking either, she truly has wasted all my good intentions. Yun Xiaodao sighed and said. Chen Xiang smiled, that's good. If there's a mission assigned to us, just do what you can. If there's anything you can't do, just wait for me to come. I'll be heading into closed-door cultivation for quite some time. Xu Weilong said, I'll also go into closed-door training. Wait for me to come out, I'm sure I'll be able to complete some tasks then. Yun Xiaodao pursed his lips, me and Lao Zhu are both injured, and we need some time to recuperate. In this way, everyone from the new first inner martial courtyard needed to do something important. So just like the old 500th martial courtyard, it was once again empty. But this time, no one dared to laugh at them.